journalists never like to hear was the question for which they were locked up. What is your source? A journalist never wants to hear that and never tends to answer that question. So to look at this question this morning with us, it's my pleasure to welcome the National Coordinator, Legal Defense and Assistance Project, Mr. Chino Obiagu. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
And our old friend, Mr. Fred Agbaje, is here today. He's been absent. He's been on AWOL for about 6-7 years. I'm glad to say that he's with us this morning. Welcome, Fred. Good to see you again.
Thank you very much.
And of course, we have a journalist in the house as well, the publisher of the Nigerian Democrat, Dr. Boyega Aribishogun, is here with us this morning.
Yeah, good morning.
Thank you for joining us. Now, let me begin with you, sir, since you're a journalist.
Yeah.
In a democracy, what place do you see press freedom in? What role do you see it playing in a democracy?
Yes. I would say that in a democracy, we all believe that Nigeria, press freedom should be allowed to try. And we also believe fair and justice in the discharge of our responsibilities as journalists should also be taken care of by the press freedom. So to me, it is a privilege, to have press freedom in a democracy.
Let me just play devil's advocate here. There are some cases where it has been said that journalists have not discharged their duties responsibly. In such cases, if you know of any, and if that is seen to be the case, what do you think should be done to such a person?
Well, there are laid down rules, there are ethics, even in the profession, that says that if you err, there are agencies, there are institutions provided for by the law that will take care of that. We have the Press Council, we have other agencies of government that deals with, the criminal aspect of any discharge of any responsibilities, which I believe, have been there even before such offenses are committed. So I know that when you have cases of misdemeanor, arising from maybe the discharge of your responsibilities, there are some institutions provided that will do justice, to do that. I will take my own case as an example. I've been a victim of such, before, and during my own.
Please, what was your offense?
Yes, I was arrested, because they said what I published was not true, and that I should come over to explain where I got the information from. But unfortunately, when I was taken to the government house, I was locked up in with the state security for 17 days. The question they asked, they never asked me again. They just locked me up until maybe through the cries of my colleagues out there, I was released. So I can be talking from an experience now. There are some cases where when you publish, those targeted may see it as an affront. They see it as something that is damaging to whatever interest they have. So they will tend to also want to prove to you that yes, we know that you may have your sources, but since we cannot force you to disclose that source of information, you should be able to at least let us know who is sponsoring you or who is giving this information. But when, as a journalist, when you say you cannot say anything until probably your lawyer comes in, they will leave you. So I believe that it happens. It does happen when people are, when some interest, are targeted, during publications. And whenever such thing happens, you are expected to come up at least with certain issues. But the issue of police coming in to arrest journalists, that will border on whether there are some criminalities involved in the process of, trying to publish your stories. For instance, like the recent matter you are trying to come up with, I digested it, and I can see that the police should be called in to investigate the veracity of the claim of both parties. if the government is saying this letter did not emanate from his office, and there was nothing like that that suggested that there is a letterhead that said directly from the presidency, I think that criminality should be investigated. Forgery could be investigated. And the only institution that the federal government can use is the police to investigate.
Okay. Let's ask Mr. Fred Agbaje. You are in the know on the issue of leadership newspaper.
Of course.
Good. And in view of that, do you think that the way it has been handled by the police, legally, do you think it is right?
Well, first and foremost, I am not competent to speak on behalf of the police, but let me quickly say...
No, an analysis based on your experience as a legal practitioner.
Let me quickly say this. Like my friend has rightly said, first and foremost, we must understand that press freedom is an adjunct of democracy. But in your practicing your press freedom, there are rules and guidelines. If you go beyond the limit that the laws allow you, like he rightly said, if you veer into a realm of criminality, the police certainly will come in and invite you because a crime has been committed. And that was exactly what the police, unfortunately police couldn't explain themselves, but that is what the police ought to be explaining, that look, our duty in coming into this case in hand is that an offense has been allegedly committed. And under Section 4 of the Police Act, the police has three essential statutory responsibilities. One, to detect that an offense has been committed. Two, to investigate the commission of that offense. And thirdly, to prosecute. The police might act under the first two headings, detection, investigation, and at the end of the day, they manage to prosecute you. They just invite you, come. You have carried out certain acts, and we think that this act borders on the realm of criminality. Come and assist us. You cannot say, oh, I'm a lawyer, I'm a journalist, I'm a medical, I'm shun the police investigation. No. The police under their act can invite anybody. And if, in fact, having regards to the recent position of law now, particularly with the recent case of Chief Ganifa of blessed memory versus the General Police, decided in 2003, the Supreme Court has said now that even those four categories of Nigeria that enjoys constitutional immunity, the president, the vice president, governor, deputy governor, they can be investigated by the police now. The police can invite them, they can be investigated, but they cannot be prosecuted until they leave the office. Meaning that the essence of the rule of law, equality of every citizen before the law, is being upheld now. You cannot now claim to say, well, I'm not going to obey this invitation. You have to.
Okay. So, as far as you're concerned, on this issue, do you think the police have done the right thing?
They have done the right thing. But if the police now detains, like he said, he was detained for 17 days, which is quite abnormal. It's constitutionally heretical for you to arrest a citizen when the Constitution, you cannot detain a citizen beyond 48 hours. And you now detain somebody for 17 days. I think there are liability for those.
In the case of the journalist involved in
but the case of the journalist involved, were they detained more than 48 hours?
Yes.
If they were detained more than 48 hours, then there is a question to be answered.
They're being asked to come back on a daily basis.
Of course, they have to, right? The police can do that. Right? Because the police cannot finish their investigation overnight. And having regard to the constitutional provisions of 48 hours within which you have to be charged, the police will say, well, we still want to do investigation, but having regard to your constitutional right, 48 hours, we will release you, but be reported for further interrogation. Okay. They can do that.
All right. Mr. Chino Obiagu, you are the National Coordinator of Legal Defense and Assistance Project. You would have done some amount of analysis of the situation, and some people in the media feel, or they have expressed concern that this particular newspaper might be muscled by government. What's the thought of LEADUP?
Thank you very much. I completely disagree that what the police did was right. First, the duty of police is to maintain law and order.
and to investigate crime. And investigation should not start with arrest and detention.